Here, back with another reaction video. This time reacting to History Summarized Scotland by Overly Sarcastic Productions. Now, I've been meaning to react to a video like this for at least a week or two, and I know my uploads have slowed down a little bit, so I'm trying to get back up to speed, so bear with me. What will I know about Scotland? The most known Celtic tribe that I know from Scotland are the Picts, who were so effective at keeping the Romans out of Scotland. So well done, Scotland. And judging from what I've seen on Instagram, they got many beautiful castles dotted all around the Scottish Islands, and beautiful landscapes as well. And I know they, just like England, they were invaded by the Vikings, and I know that and the basic part is I know Scotland was invaded by England, since I'm an Englishman myself. Well, I live in the southwest of England, so, and unfortunately that invasion, if memory serves, was first orchestrated by Edward I, or as most people called him, Edward Longshanks. And if you want to know why he's called Longshanks, I'm pretty sure the clue is in the name. Yeah, as I said, like a lot of subjects, my knowledge can be a bit muddled, and Overly Sarcastic Productions is a great channel, and I've seen some of their other historical videos, because I think I might have to double check my watch history. I've watched their video about the history of Ireland, so anyway, the usual disclaimer when I react to historical videos or any historical content: if I don't show so much as what is considered a proper reaction, it's probably because it's obvious that I don't know much about the subject at hand, and if I do know anything, I'll most likely pause the video and give my input, or ask any curious questions which hopefully will be answered in the comments below. So anyway, the link to the original video will be in the description down below. Please go and subscribe to Overly Sarcastic Productions. Check out their channel, and hopefully you'll like and subscribe to their channel. And so, without out of the way, I will not waste any more time, so without further ado, let's get this up on screen. And
in researching this video, I very quickly learned a valuable lesson about how little the Scots mess around. Okay, I thought, the Scots and the English hate each other, sure, but it can't be that bad, honestly. So I took a look.
Oh, I'm pretty sure it is.
Little peruse to see how many times the two actually fought each other, and sweet
Mother
Mary, that is a lot of stabbing! Scotland!
A lot more than I expected, but yeah, I'm not surprised.
Hurt you. Trick question. England. So be warned, the Scots throughout history are...
Really, Blue? You couldn't be bothered to use the St. George's flag?
Every bit as bonkers as they come across on Twitter. To find out why...
Well, hang on. Sorry, I missed...
It is bonkers. You. Trick question. England. So be warned, the Scots throughout history are every bit as bonkers as they...
Called a weird French bitch for being a wee cow on my photo. Then she threatened to come to Scotland and beat me up. Oh my god. Okay.
Come across on Twitter.
Sorry, I just had to...
Why? Let's do some history.
This video is brought to you by Audible, which is a wee bit ironic, seeing as the Scottish language is damn near inaudible.
Around 2,000 years ago, Scotland was inhabited by various tribes of Pictish Celt.
Sorry, I'll rewind a minute. This is one of the reasons why I want to react to this sort of video, especially about the history of Scotland, is just want to see, because obviously Overly Sarcastic Productions History Summarized series, it just gives you the basics, it's a bit sort of their own, it's in a way, it's kind of oversimplified, except they got their own little way of making their own simple part of it, you know, like the basics. So, as I said, I've been meaning to know, like, you know, the history of Scotland before, you know, the Romans and English, you know, kind of attacked Scotland. So, anyway, let's get back into this.
Around 2,000 years ago, Scotland was inhabited by various tribes of Pictish Celts, living up north, herding, and minding their own business. So when the Roman Empire swaggered up to try and conquer them, they gave those Romans a walloping so bad that Emperor Hadrian built a wall just to make sure that nobody ever tried to conquer them again. Essentially,
I just don't think you can do this one. I've been an assassin for a while now. What makes you think, oh, get that shit out of here, you're right.
So even though these original Celts weren't anything like modern Scots, it is refreshing to see the national character demonstrated so well at such an early stage. Rome eventually collapsed.
Well, you can say that about any Celtic people, like the Picts, I think, weren't the Irish Celts known as the Gaels? I said I might have to read that. And I come from the southwest of England, right down here if you can see my mouse, because I was born in Cornwall. And then also, I know for a fact you had Welsh Celts known as the Britons, but sometimes that pronunciation can be a bit iffy at times. So anyway, sorry for my rambling.
But Europe reintroduced itself to Scotland via Christianity and Anglo-Saxon migrations, which coalesced through the 7th century into a few main groups. For our purposes, the most relevant two are the Picts and
Scotty, Alclut, and Northumbria.
The Scoti, where we get the name Scotia, aka Scotland. In 843, Kenneth MacAlpin united the Scots and Picts in order to create the Kingdom of Alba. The early kingdom had to deal with the Vikings and the English in the 8 and 900s as land from every corner was getting yoinked. But beyond outside threats, there were also constant internal fisticuffs over the crown. The quintessential example of the early Scottish king is Macbeth, whom hereafter shall be referred to exclusively as MacBoy because that play is...
I was about to say, it'll probably tell me in a minute, but I know it was a famous Shakespeare play, but for some reason I remember it being, you know, not very well. Like any playwright during Shakespeare's time was you were like, you know, you were disliked as just a mention of the name Macbeth, and they would, like, for some reason, like, I would say either cower in fear or get very angry at you. Anyway,
and I'm not looking for trouble. Trouble is, nearly everything you might know about him from Shakespeare is wrong. Here's why.
Not surprised.
The Scottish crown didn't follow a strict succession, but claimants came to debate who was best fit to rule, and this caused constant disputes that escalated into wars. So MacBoy actually killed King Duncan in a battle in the year 1040 and ruled for the next 17 years peacefully, generously, and successfully. In 1057, he died in another battle against Duncan's son Malcolm Canmore, who then assumed the throne. All that stuff about murder conspiracies got added by Scottish historians centuries later, but civil wars over the throne were already a matter of protocol since the kingdom had gotten started. MacBoy's real-life path was actually quite standard. But speaking of wonky royal succession crises, the next decade brought the Norman conquest of England, and William the Conqueror's second son Henry married King Malcolm's daughter. The family relations are confusing now, and they stay that way for the next 1,000 years, so I'm going to try to avoid specifics where I can for the sake of my sanity, but the bottom line is that the King of Scotland exchanged notes with his sister, the Queen of England, about culture and statecraft. So in the following 2 centuries, Scotland picked up some Norman tricks, like a central bureaucracy, a church hierarchy, and a curious new language derived from the Norman French, called Scots. The native Gaelic was still the dominant language in the Highlands especially, but the Lowlands trended slowly towards the customs of their anglicized southern neighbors.
The Scottish dialect is in revenge against the English language for being so absurd. I suppose that's fair.
The 11 and 1200s saw a steady back and forth between Scotland and England along the borders in Northumbria, but not a whole lot of drama. Until, however, the King of Scotland died in 1286 without a clear heir, and rather than have all 13 possible cousins...
Oh yeah, I remember now this part I heard, which was like... Which, kind of brings on Edward Longshanks. And in case you haven't noticed, us English have not been fond of at least a fair few of our kings. We've had a fair few mad monarchs in England. So, sorry, Scotland.
Let's duke it out the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, because, again, this was a kind of another brief history which, again, embarrassingly, I learnt through Age of Empires. So, Age of Empires 2 to be more specific. So, it did mention something about the King of Scotland, a King of Scotland dying without an heir.
And rather than have all 13 possible cousins duke it out the old-fashioned way, they called in the English king to mediate the dispute, which, I don't know, seems like kind of a short-sighted and terrible idea. Unsurprisingly, King Edward installed the weakest, most pliable puppet who would let him treat Scotland like a vassal state. And when even that pushover got fed up with forfeiting Scottish land, paying tribute, and kneeling to English superiority, King Edward invaded Scotland, dethroned the king.
Probably debatable, but I think Edward Longshanks was probably the most psychotic of English kings.
And yoinked the Scottish coronation stone back to Westminster, dragging Scotland firmly on.
Yeah, because wasn't it called the stone of Scone? And Edward declared himself king of both England and Scotland. And I think at this time, I can't remember. Yeah. Sorry, I had to think. I know it's dangerous. I had to think, but yeah, Wales was a part of England at the time.
Under the English heel. This was, frankly, terrible, so the Scots duly rebelled against England under the command of the famous William Wallace, who won a victory at the Battle of Stirling Bridge in 1297, but lost horrendously at Falkirk the next year, and was later executed by England.
Okay, I know they weren't at Stirling Bridge, but I didn't know they lost at Falkirk. Because I know they tore down the English castles and built Scottish ones in their place. Because I know this. I think the invasion from the English, and yes, I know I'm saying this as an Englishman, so get out of the way. I think in a way it helped in a way it kind of like got the people of Scotland to unite under a common cause, which is to push the English back out of Scotland. And that's probably one of the reasons why I can't stand Braveheart, because it is so inaccurate, and unfortunately it's got Mel Gibson in it, who doesn't give a toss about historical accuracies.
England and paraded around Scotland in pieces. Quick fun fact, of the many reasons that the movie Brave...
Okay, I know he was hung, drawn and quartered, but I didn't realise he was paraded around in pieces. Paraded around Scotland in pieces. Ugh. Yeah.
Part sucks. The blue war paint that everybody's wearing is about 1,000 years out of style for the Scots.
Yeah, because I believe I believe those are Pictish designs.
I mean, come on, that kind of anachronism is like dressing the cast of The Godfather in togas. It was after Wallace died that Robert the Bruce took up the mantle of Guardian of Scotland. He had to kill a rival claimant to earn his title, but he also earned an excommunication from the Pope because apparently murdering somebody in a church is impolite and a mortal sin. Whatever. He was defeated early by Edward in 1306 and went into hiding for a year before returning to win the Battle of Loudon Hill. From there, he stomped out local rivalries and united Scotland fully against the English at the decisive Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. Though the treaties weren't signed for another 15 years, Robert the Bruce won Scotland 3 centuries of independence in that battle. Quick OS pro tip, skip Braveheart, but watch The Outlaw King. It's better and way more accurate. So having fulfilled his dreams for his kingdom, Robert died the next...
There you go. You want a more accurate version of Scottish history? Check out that film. Check out The Outlaw King.
It's better and way more accurate. So
there
having
you go.
fulfilled his dreams for his kingdom,
Blue has said it.
Robert died the next year, but this was exceptionally poor timing and really unfortunate in the long run because the throne passed to a series of useless kings from the House of Stuart for the next several decades. Through the 13 and 1400s, Scotland had no real leadership, so the local lords started throwing hands, or more accurately, claymores. In this case, the warring states were actually the dozens of clans scattered across the...
Okay. I think, yeah, between... as I say, when it comes to history, I'm very bad with dates. So I believe it was the 1400s where England had their civil war, or the War of the Roses. I could be wrong, but
the Lowlands and Highlands. Mercifully, England had just gotten sucked into the 100 Years' War with France, so Scotland was free to be its own antagonist the way God intended. And although the Stuart clan still held the crown, other families like the Douglas clan were regularly challenging them for land.
Which, if you're curious to how that the 100 Years' War started, I've already reacted to that about the Battle of Agincourt and Henry V. So feel free to check that out.
Power. Some progress came with King James I in 1406, who sent 12,000 Scotsmen to fight with France against England in the 100 Years' War, winning big and returning home in a strong position to consolidate many of the clans under his crown and reform the kingdom. Unfortunately, he got assassinated, and it was right back to the seesawing balance of power between kings, regents, lords, and clans. Even after James, the Highlanders still largely spoke Gaelic and paid little heed to the culture or politics of the anglicized royal court in the Lowlands. The king could say whatever he wants down in Edinburgh, but unless he personally marches up to Inverness to tell Clan Fraser in person to pay their taxes, it's not gonna happen. And one king even tried that, but still nothing happened. It's just all very Game of Thronesy for a couple centuries. And I mean, heck, it's at this time that the War of the Roses is raging on just down the street. And you know what? Since it's just a big mess anyway, I'm gonna speed round through the next 300 years, so bear with me and let's get ready for a game of Monarchy is Volatile. Let's meet our players. One king was really cool and helped reform the government to work for more of Scotland while making Edinburgh into a Renaissance capital of learning and culture. One queen got the short end of the stick when Scotland's parliament voted to convert to Protestantism while she was on vacation in France, and then she got the shorter end of the stick when England imprisoned her for 2 decades and then executed her. Her son played his cards just right and inherited the throne of England from his cousin, the childless Elizabeth, and then became king of England and Scotland. His son was so inconceivably bad at being king that his abuses of power brought...
Yeah, because I believe that's how the UK was created. I'm pretty sure as I said, it'll probably tell me, but I always recently thought that the UK was created by a Scotsman.
Brought England
by
and
a Scottish
Scotland
king,
into open rebellion for entirely separate reasons, and his reign ended with the British Isles locked in 12 years of civil war before everybody called a do-over and gave the crown back to his son. One king became king because Parliament literally invited him from the Netherlands to replace their current monarch, and then he proceeded to strangle Scottish trading rights. And the last queen on our list tried to be a pal by offering Scotland a national union with England to open up trade avenues in exchange for the bargain price of nearly all of their sovereignty. I'd originally gone way in depth about how all of this stuff went down in my first draft, but then I realized, you know what? Royal politics is dumb and confusing, and I kind of hate it more than anything else in history. So I'm gonna skip through it. Yeah. So I did. One standout event from the mid-1500s is when the King of England tried to drive a wedge between a long-standing alliance between Scotland and France in the hopes to endear Scotland to their southern English neighbors. They did this by pillaging the lowlands and burning Edinburgh to the ground. You may find that this is a bad way to make new friends. The Scots came to call the 7-year campaign the Rough Wooing, as they did not appreciate being bullied into love. And this sentiment persisted for centuries, way up until the Act of Union in 1707. Scotland was suspicious of the Queen's offer of partnership, and while they'd get one metric British Empire out of the deal in the long run, the immediate result was England...
Sorry about that. I thought it was King James VI of Scotland that created the union of Scotland and England and the creation of the United Kingdom of Great Britain. Sorry.
Deciding they now had a constitutional right to treat Scotland like a colony.
Wow.
As you can see, this is kind of a recurring problem, and it led to 2 revolts for Scottish independence in 1715 and in 1745. Both failed, but the second one spooked England into being slightly less despicable about everything. In the next century and a half following the rebellions, things turned remarkably for the better.
Well, it's only fair. Mind you, I'm not very impressed by politicians anyway, so
as the Enlightenment came north,
for the most
writers
part.
like Walter Scott and Robert Burns helped rekindle the Scottish identity, and thinkers like Adam Smith and David Hume radically changed European perspectives on rational thought and economics. Hume claimed that reason was the core of human thought, and Smith described the benefits of letting people act in their own self-interest. This all sounds very profound, but don't be fooled. The clear Scottish subtext to these ideas are, the English don't make a damn lick of sense, and we'd be better off making our own decisions. And you can't expect a Scottish Enlightenment thinker to not bury snide comments at England under 2 tons of hard academic theory. Though Scotland had long been an educational powerhouse, in the following 2 centuries they also became the industrial heart of the British Empire, producing such famous doodads as the steam engine, the telephone, radar, and mechanical television, and also most of the ships in the Imperial Royal Navy. Nice. Other happy beneficiaries of the 18th and 19th centuries were the cities of Glasgow and Edinburgh, which built up substantially in the Georgian neoclassical style, and they just look really damn pretty. Funny thing about the Edinburgh...
Looking at pictures of Edinburgh, it looks absolutely beautiful. Just want to put that there, and I believe this is Edinburgh Castle. And fun fact, I think there's a big mansion in Jamaica called Edinburgh Castle, if I remember rightly.
A castle is, instead of firing off 12 cannon shots to mark the passing of noon like the English do, they just wait 1 hour and save 11 rounds. That is so Scottish. Quickly approaching the modern day now, Scottish attitudes towards the Union grew more suspicious as England seems to care less and less by the decade about what happened up north, and the hard-forged British identity faded with time and the decline of the British Empire. After years of campaigning, Scotland gained greater autonomy and the right to hold their own parliament in 1999, and the first words spoken there were, quote, "The Scottish Parliament, adjourned on the 25th of March 1707, is hereby reconvened." And if that is not some big Scotland energy right there, then wrap me in a tartan plaid and throw me in Loch Ness, because I know what is. Now, if you want to jump into the tumultuous world of medieval Scottish murder kings, then you've got to go for Shakespeare's Macbeth, and one of the best ways to do that is with today's sponsor, Audible. With an astoundingly huge catalog of audiobooks to choose from, Audible is the world's leader in cutting out the middleman between an author's ideas and your brain. Red and I do a lot of research on this channel, so it's great for me to be able to listen to history while I'm taking a walk or just making dinner. And of course, I've got to mention my absolute favorite feature, speed control. Sometimes you want to go fast, and sometimes you want to really slow down and enjoy a scene, so Audible lets you listen at your own perfect pace. Audible members who sign up get a credit for any audiobook. Complete our link on audible.com/overlysarcastic, or text overly sarcastic to 500 500. If you do, you'll be supporting the channel and getting a good audiobook in the process. Again, if this sounds like something you'd like, head to audible.com/overlysarcastic.
Thank you for watching. Now, you should know that the temptation to do this entire video in a thick Scottish brogue was too high. I cannot tell you how close I was. Seeing as I am half Scottish, it's only fair that I should sound the part. So I hope you enjoyed this look into the history of Scotland, and I'll see you in the next video.
And that'll do it. This has been an interesting video by Overly Sarcastic Productions, and as I said, this just gave like the basics of Scottish history. So if you want me to to react to more videos about the history of Scotland, feel free to suggest it in the comments below. But it's, as I said, it's a video I've been meaning to react to for a while, and as I said, it's been an interesting video. So if you like this reaction, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next